Bellingham is the other one. Bellingham's been on the front pages after his shoulder surgery this week. It's something that Bellingham kind of signposted during the Club World Cup. He said a couple of days after the tournament finishes, I'm booked in for shoulder surgery. This shoulder issue that's troubled him for sort of 2 years now. We've seen him wearing this kind of strapping during games and him not being comfortable. He talked about how uncomfortable he'd been. So he's had this surgery now. I think one of the headlines on the paper today was sort of learning to live without Bellingham and what they're going to do in terms of being without Bellingham now, we think, for anything up to 3 months, because they waited to have this surgery after the Club World Cup, knowing that he then missed the start of the league season.
We've asked you for a starting 11 without him, Alex. How do you think they will set up with the current squad they have?
Yeah, look, of course it's a problem being without one of your best players, which Bellingham evidently is, but I also think it's an opportunity for Xabi Alonso, because it hasn't been easy to sort of fit all these puzzle pieces together. I don't think it's straightforward to fit Bellingham into a team with Mbappe and Vinicius. Xabi Alonso talked about Bellingham being a midfielder, seeing him as a midfielder. That's not how we saw him used at the Club World Cup. It was sort of in between the midfield and the front two, on the right-hand side, almost of a front three. So I think without Bellingham, in a way, it gets a little bit more simple. I think it allows Alonso to play the midfield two of Fede Valverde and Arda Güler. You could bring in someone like Rodrigo, who's perhaps more naturally suited to that right-sided attacking role. And like I say, I think the system sort of works without Jude Bellingham. That doesn't mean they won't miss him. They won't miss his goals. They won't miss his leadership. They'll be desperate to get him back. But like I say, in terms of making this team kind of fit together, having an important piece, but one fewer piece, I think actually in a way makes it more straightforward.
Frank, I know you've got, 2 new pieces there with Alexander Arnold, Huijsen as well. But you just look at that team overall, and it's very easy to think back to last season, where a lot of those players didn't turn up in big matches, didn't perform at the level that you're expecting. And it's a big ask now. It's going to be very interesting, isn't it, for Xabi Alonso to see how he gets those players back to the best, back to the team that won the Champions League just 2 seasons ago.
That's going to be tricky, because you will need the all involvement of all the team, and we all know that with Mbappe and Vinicius Junior it's quite impossible, because they don't want to defend. They don't be part of the dark side of the football player and of the game. And on top of it, they have to be stronger in the middle of the park. And I'm sorry, Valverde, yeah, you have Fran Garcia who can do the job, but I don't see them playing with 3 offensive players at front, and even with Gonzalo Garcia in the middle of the park, it's too much offensive. They have to settle down people. Güler cannot play in the middle of the park. He doesn't defend enough, and with the 2 others, it's impossible. And maybe another defensive midfielder alongside Valverde would be good. But otherwise, they're not strong enough defensively. And remember how in Bayer Leverkusen, Xabi Alonso used to play. He was strong. He was firstly strong, then let the offensive player do the different. But you have to be strong, and they're not strong enough.
Champions League is always Real Madrid's aim, yeah? But you look at the way that Liverpool have added to their squad. PSG are only going to get stronger now with experience, you feel, from what happened last year. I just look at that starting 11. If I'm a Real Madrid fan, I'm not that excited.
I look at that 11 and I just see warning signs for Xabi Alonso and pressure and trying to figure it out. And if he does go with a back 3, which he did, not all the time at Leverkusen, but quite a lot of the time. Obviously, big signing on the right side with Alexander Arnold, but Carvajal back fit again if they want to go to a back 4, a more solid fullback. The left side, I mean, Fran Garcia, he actually was one of their better players during the Club World Cup, but I'm not holding that in any high regard. That's a weak point for them. Now Huijsen, I think at Bournemouth, if memory serves me right, they played a back 4 more often than a back 3. So for Rudiger and Huijsen, that's getting on the outside. You almost find yourself in the full-back positions at times. And sometimes as a centre-half, you get out your comfort zone. So it's going to be new to a lot of these players. And one of the things Ancelotti talked about last year was finding the right balance. Do you remember when he said, I think in the bigger games, I have to take a forward out and put an extra midfielder on? Now, we tried everything, and it pretty much didn't work. I think he played 4-4-2 at Arsenal at the Emirates and got absolutely played off the park in that particular game. So he really couldn't find anything that was working for him. Whether Xabi Alonso can do the same with some of these attacking players remains to be seen. But I don't look at that side in terms of recruitments, in terms of signings, or in terms of who was there last year and maybe better, I don't look at it and think, wow, that's a side that's going to frighten all the teams in the Liga. In fact, I don't think it will. I think it's a Real Madrid team that will give you opportunities to get at them.
A concern I'd also have for Real Madrid is the lack of kind of buzz around Rodrigo. Alex, I think it's fair to say that I think he would quite like to leave. Real Madrid would like to cash in on him. But we've been talking about the links to maybe Arsenal or Bayern Munich, but they've really only been whispers that doesn't seem to have much substance behind them.
Yeah, I think he was hoping for a fresh start under Xabi Alonso, having disappeared from the team completely under Ancelotti since the Copa del Rey final when he went off at half-time. And at the Club World Cup, as I say, he started off, he sort of played less and less as the competition went on. I think he played, 60-odd minutes in the game against Al Hilal, then he played 20-odd minutes against Salzburg, and then it was only 4 minutes in the knockout stage. In 2 of Madrid's 3 games in the knockout stage, he didn't play at all. That's not a good sign for Rodrigo. I think in an ideal world, he would like to stay at Real Madrid, but he wants to stay at Real Madrid if he's important, if he's playing. He hasn't been happy playing on the right-hand side. Previously under Ancelotti, would prefer to play on the left. That's just not going to happen. In terms of potential signings and departures for Madrid for the rest of the summer, the club seem to be saying, for now, players will only come in if players leave, and Rodrigo is one of those players who could leave. As you say, there's a market there in the Premier League. Arsenal may not be that likely given the numbers involved. Liverpool have been linked in the last couple of days. I'm not sure how much truth there is in that, but certainly in terms of possible departures, Rodrigo is one. In terms of that 11 as well, I should say, Dan, one name we haven't mentioned who's due to arrive in August is Mastantuono. Very talented young player. He's going to join when he turns 18 from River Plate, and I don't have enough of him to know how good he is, but a lot of people who have say that he's ready to come into the first team, and he'd be another option on that right-hand side as well.